At the couple's retreat, my wife said during the honesty circle, "I only married him for his potential. He hasn't lived up to it yet." In front of 12 other couples and the therapist. I stood up. "Thank you for your honesty." Then I walked out, drove home, and called a divorce attorney from the parking lot. Her call came when she realized I'd actually left. Original post. I, 36 male, have been married to my wife for 7 years. Together for 9 years total. We met through mutual friends at a birthday party, dated for 2 years, had a nice engagement, did the whole wedding thing with about 150 guests, bought a house in the suburbs. The American dream, supposedly. Quick background on me. I'm an electrician. Have been since I was 19 when I started my apprenticeship. I went through a 4-year program, got my journeyman license at 23, and 5 years ago, I earned my master electrician certification. I run my own small business now. Just me and 2 employees doing residential and light commercial work. I make decent money. Not wealthy, but comfortable. Around $95,000 last year, after business expenses. My wife works in pharmaceutical sales for a major company. She makes about $120,000 annually when you factor in her bonuses. She's always made more than me, and that has genuinely never bothered me. Different careers, different compensation structures. We split household bills proportionally based on income, which always seemed fair to both of us. Here's the thing, though. Over the past couple of years, I started noticing comments from her. Little jabs that didn't quite land like jokes. When are you finally going to expand the business? My friend's husband just made partner at his law firm. I thought by now you'd have at least 10 employees working for you. Nothing overtly cruel, just this constant low-grade pressure suggesting I wasn't quite measuring up to some invisible standard she had in her head. She's the one who suggested the couple's retreat. Said we needed to reconnect and work on our communication patterns. I figured, sure, why not? Marriage requires effort. The retreat was a weekend program at a conference center, $1, $800 total for both of us, which she paid for since it was her idea. 12 other couples attended, 2 licensed therapists ran various exercises, the whole structured therapeutic experience. Saturday afternoon, we did something called the Honesty Circle. Everyone sits in a large circle, and you're supposed to share something true about your relationship that you've been afraid to say out loud. The lead therapist emphasized multiple times that this was a safe space, and that vulnerability builds lasting connection. Couple after couple shared their truths. One guy admitted he felt unappreciated at home. One woman said she was scared her husband didn't find her attractive anymore after having kids. Real, human, tender admissions. Several people were crying. It was actually kind of beautiful, honestly. I was impressed by how open everyone was being. Then it was my wife's turn. She took a deep breath, looked at me for a moment, then looked at the entire group assembled around us, and said, "I guess my truth is, I married him for his potential. I saw what he could become, not what he actually was. And after 7 years of marriage, I'm still waiting. He hasn't lived up to it yet." The room went completely silent. Not uncomfortable silence, shocked silence. I could feel 24 pairs of eyes shifting between us. The lead therapist's mouth actually opened slightly, like she wasn't sure what to do with that. My wife continued, apparently not reading the room at all. "I thought he'd grow, build something bigger than what he has, be more ambitious about his future. But he's just comfortable where he is. And I'm honestly tired of waiting for him to finally become the man I married him to be." Someone in the circle coughed awkwardly. The therapist started to say something about, "Thank you for sharing your truth," but I was already standing up from my chair. I looked at my wife. She seemed surprised by my reaction, like she expected me to just absorb it, process it silently, have a productive, therapeutic conversation about her feelings later in private. I said, "Thank you for your honesty. I really mean that." Then I walked out of the room. I heard her call my name as the door closed behind me. I didn't stop walking. I went straight to our assigned room, grabbed my overnight bag that I hadn't fully unpacked yet, and walked directly to the parking lot. I'd driven us there in my truck. She'd have to figure out her own transportation home. I sat in my truck for about 5 minutes, just focusing on breathing. My hands were shaking slightly against the steering wheel. 7 years of marriage. 9 years together total. And she'd apparently spent that entire time waiting for me to transform into someone else. I pulled out my phone and Googled divorce attorney near me. Found a firm with excellent reviews that advertised a 24/7 answering service for urgent matters. Called and left a detailed message explaining my situation. Asked for a consultation appointment as soon as humanly possible. Then I started driving home. About 40 minutes into the drive, my phone rang through the Bluetooth. My wife. I answered. Her. What is happening right now? You just left? You walked out. Me. Yeah. Her. We're in the middle of a therapy retreat that I paid for. You can't just walk out like that. Me. I actually can walk out. I just did. Her. This is so incredibly immature of you. I was being honest. That's literally what we were supposed to do in that exercise. Me. And I genuinely appreciate that honesty. Now I know exactly how you really feel about me. I'm not the man you thought you married. Good to finally know. Her. That's not. I didn't mean it like that. I was sharing my feelings in a safe space. You're supposed to hear me, not run away. Me. I heard you perfectly fine. You married me for my potential, not for who I actually am. 7 years later, I'm still a disappointment to you. Message received loud and clear. Her. You're twisting my words around. Me. I'm quoting them, word for word, which you said in front of 12 other couples and a licensed therapist. She went quiet for a second. Then, are you seriously driving home right now? Alone. Me. Yes. Her. How am I supposed to get home from here? Me. Uber. Rental car. Ask one of the other couples for a ride. You're a resourceful person. Figure it out. Her. This is absolutely insane behavior. You're acting completely crazy. Me. I'm acting like a man who just discovered his wife settled for him and has been waiting 7 years for him to become someone worthy of her. I'm going home. You can find your own way back. I hung up. That was last night. She ended up getting a ride back with another couple from the retreat. I know because the husband texted me around 8 p.m. asking if everything was okay and mentioning they were driving her home. She got to the house around 11 p.m. I was already in the guest bedroom with the door locked. She banged on it for roughly 20 minutes, alternating between crying and yelling and demanding I come out and talk like a mature adult. I didn't open the door. Not once. This morning, I had my consultation call with the divorce attorney. Monday at 2 p.m., I'm going into his office for a comprehensive meeting to discuss all my options. My wife has been texting me nonstop since yesterday. The recurring themes are, I'm massively overreacting. She didn't mean it the way it sounded. I'm punishing her for being vulnerable in therapy. I need to stop being so ridiculously sensitive. If I actually loved her, I would stay and work on this together. That last one is pretty ironic coming from someone who just admitted she married me hoping I'd eventually become a different person. Reddit. I know divorce is an enormous step. I know marriages go through rough patches and people work through hard things all the time. But this wasn't a rough patch. This was her telling me, publicly, in front of strangers, in what was supposed to be a therapeutic healing setting, that she spent our entire marriage disappointed in who I fundamentally am. I'm not interested in spending another 7 years trying to become good enough for someone who never thought I was good enough from the start. Am I being too hasty about this? Part of me wonders if I should at least hear her out in a real conversation. But another part of me thinks, she said out loud, in front of everyone. She meant every word. What exactly is there to hear out? Update 1, 5 days later. This blew up way more than I expected. Thank you to everyone who commented, both the supportive messages and the people who said I should at least have one real conversation with her. You all gave me a lot to think about. Here's what's happened since Saturday. Monday, I met with the divorce attorney in person. Nice guy, very direct and practical. He explained that in our state, divorce is no fault, meaning her comments at the retreat don't really affect the legal proceedings. What matters is asset division. And since we've been married 7 years with no children, it's relatively straightforward compared to most cases. The house is the major asset. We bought it 5 years ago. Both our names are on a mortgage and deed. We've built approximately $180,000 in equity through payments and appreciation. In an equitable distribution state like ours, that gets split roughly 50-50, meaning we'd either sell the house and divide the proceeds, or one of us buys out the other's share. My electrical business is trickier. I started it 2 years before the marriage, but it's grown significantly during the marriage, so a portion of its current value could legally be considered marital property. The attorney warned me this would likely be the main point of contention in proceedings. I left that meeting feeling strangely calm. Having a concrete plan made everything feel more manageable somehow. My wife, however, was definitely not calm. Monday night, she finally cornered me when I emerged from the guest room to grab food from the kitchen. She'd clearly been waiting. We absolutely need to talk. This silent treatment is completely ridiculous. Me? Okay, go ahead and talk. I'm sorry if what I said hurt you, but you need to understand where I was coming from with that. I was being honest about my feelings. That's literally what the exercise was designed for. Me? I understand exactly where you were coming from. You married me thinking I would eventually become someone different, someone more ambitious, someone who makes more money, someone better than who I am. And I haven't become that person. That's not. You're oversimplifying everything. Me? How would you prefer I complicate it? I love you. I've always loved you. I see so much potential in you that you're not using. And it's genuinely frustrating to watch you not reach for it. Me? Reach for what exactly? I have a successful business. I make good money. I enjoy my work. I provide for our household. What exactly am I supposed to be reaching for? More. Growth. You could have 12 employees. You could expand into commercial projects. You could... Me? Could what? Make as much money as you do. Is that what this has always been about? She went quiet. Me? I met with a divorce attorney today. Her face went completely white. You what? Me? I'm filing for divorce. I wanted you to hear it from me before you got formally served. You cannot be serious about this. Over one comment at a stupid therapy retreat. Me? It wasn't one comment. It was your truth. You've been waiting 7 years for me to become someone I'm not. I'm done auditioning for a role I didn't even know I was supposed to be playing. She started crying. Please don't do this. I made a terrible mistake. I spoke without thinking about how it would sound. Me? You didn't speak without thinking. You had the entire therapy session to consider what you wanted to share. You chose that. That's how you genuinely feel. And I can't unknow it now. She grabbed my arm desperately. I'll go to therapy. Individual therapy. Twice a week. I'll work on this. Please just give me one more chance. Me? I gave you 7 years. That was the chance. I returned to the guest room. She cried outside the door for roughly an hour. I'm not proud of how unmoved I felt. But honestly, I felt nothing except exhaustion. Just profoundly tired. Tuesday, her mother called me. I've always had a decent relationship with my mother-in-law, but this conversation deteriorated fast. I understand you're hurt, but you really need to think about what you're throwing away here. Me? I'm not throwing anything away. Your daughter told a room full of strangers that I've been a disappointment for our entire marriage. She didn't mean it the way you're taking it. She was expressing a desire to grow together as partners. Me? No. She was expressing frustration that I haven't grown while she waited and watched. That's not partnership. That's treating me like a project. Marriage requires compromise. Sometimes we say things we don't really mean. Me? She meant it. I saw her face when she said it. She looked relieved to finally say it out loud. You're being vindictive about this. This is about your wounded ego. Me? This is about refusing to spend another 7 years being evaluated like a stock that hasn't hit its projected value. She hung up on me. Wednesday, I discovered my wife had called my mother, to express concern about my mental state and ask if she could talk some sense into me. My mom called me that evening and said, "Your wife told me exactly what she said at that retreat. I don't blame you one bit for how you're handling this. Do whatever you need to do." Thursday, things escalated significantly. I came home from work to find my wife had moved all my belongings out of the guest room and back in a master bedroom. Just physically relocated everything. My clothes, phone charger, laptop, toiletries. All of it. You're not sleeping in the guest room anymore. This arrangement is absolutely ridiculous. We're married. Married people sleep in the same bed. Me, you don't get to unilaterally decide that. Her, it's my house too. Me, actually, until the divorce is finalized, we both have equal legal right to all spaces in this house, including the guest room. Moving my belongings doesn't change anything. I move everything back. She stood in the doorway watching me, arms crossed tightly. Her, you're really going through with this? Throwing away 7 years of marriage. Me, I'm not throwing away anything. I'm accepting reality that you were never truly happy with who I actually am. You were waiting for me to become someone else. I won't become that person. Her, God, you're so incredibly stubborn. This is exactly why we have problems. You never listened to me. Me, I listened. At the retreat, in front of everyone. I heard every single word. She slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the hallway wall and the glass cracked. Friday, I got a text from her sister. It said, I know you're going through a hard time, but my sister is absolutely devastated by this. Can you please just hear her out? 7 years is a long time to give up over one difficult moment. I replied, it wasn't one moment. It was her truth. She told me what she's been feeling for 7 years. I believe her. Her sister didn't respond after that. Update 2, 12 days later. Things have gotten significantly messy, eh? Let me catch everyone up. After my last update, my wife shifted tactics entirely. The crying and desperate pleading stopped. Instead, she went completely cold. Wouldn't speak to me, wouldn't acknowledge my presence. Acted like I was invisible in our own house. Fine by me. I could work with that. Actually made day-to-day life easier. Then Monday happened. I came home from work to find her and her best friend sitting in our living room going through old photo albums and speaking in hushed tones. They stopped immediately when I walked in. Her friend looked at me with undisguised contempt. Her friend, I honestly can't believe you're doing this to her. She made one mistake. Me, I don't recall asking for your opinion. Her friend, she's lost 8 pounds from the stress. She can barely sleep at night. She genuinely loves you, and you're throwing her away like garbage. Me, she told a room full of complete strangers that I'm a disappointment who hasn't lived up to her expectations. That's not a mistake. That's a revelation. Her friend, people say things in the heat of the moment that they don't mean. Me, she meant it. And even if I pretended she didn't, even if we chalked it up to poor word choice, I now know that somewhere deep in her brain, that thought exists. That I'm not good enough. That I never was. I can't unknow that information. Her friend turned to my wife. He's completely impossible. You're honestly better off without him. My wife started crying again. Her friend comforted her on the couch. I went to the guest room. Tuesday, I got served at work. Not with divorce papers, I was the one filing those. No, my wife had filed for a temporary restraining order against me. Yeah, a restraining order. The petition claimed I had been emotionally abusive throughout our marriage and that she feared for her safety. No specific incidents were listed beyond vague accusations of controlling behavior and refusing to communicate and financial threats. My attorney was furious when I called him. Not because the restraining order had any chance of being granted. It didn't, and we both knew it, but because it was clearly a tactical maneuver. If she somehow got a temporary restraining order approved, I'd be forced to leave the house immediately, which would give her exclusive possession and significantly strengthen her position in the divorce negotiations. We went before a judge Wednesday morning for an emergency hearing. My wife showed up with her own attorney. Apparently she'd retained one, which I expected would happen eventually. She looked nervous but determined. Her attorney presented the case: emotional abuse, controlling behavior, refusing to engage in marital discussions, abandoning her at the couple's retreat. My attorney responded systematically. I left a therapy session after my wife publicly humiliated me in front of strangers. I've been sleeping in the guest room of our shared home. I haven't raised my voice once, threatened her in any way, or done anything remotely warranting a protective order. This petition is a transparent attempt to manipulate the divorce proceedings by forcing me out of the marital home. The judge looked at my wife directly and asked, "Ma'am, has your husband ever physically threatened you?" Broken objects? Block you from leaving the house. My wife hesitated noticeably. No, but, Judge, has he ever verbally threatened to harm you in any way? Wife, he's been cold and distant with me. Judge, that's not what I asked. Has he threatened you? Wife, no. Judge, has he ever been physically intimidating toward you? Wife, he won't talk to me. He won't even look at me most of the time. Judge, that's not abuse, ma'am. That's a man who doesn't want to be married to you anymore. Petition denied. Her attorney tried to argue further. The judge shut it down immediately. We were finished in 15 minutes. In the courthouse hallway afterward, my wife approached me. I can't believe you actually did this to me. Me, I did this? You tried to get me thrown out of my own house with a fabricated restraining order. It's not fabricated. I feel genuinely unsafe. Me, you feel uncomfortable. That's completely different. And now a judge has documented that you're willing to make false claims in court filings. Her attorney physically pulled her away before she could respond. My attorney was satisfied with the outcome. That ruling is going to look terrible for her credibility in the divorce proceedings. Judges absolutely despise people who abuse the protective order system. Here's where things actually get interesting. Thursday, I received a call from an unknown number. Turned out to be one of the husbands from the couple's retreat. The same one who'd texted me asking if everything was okay. Hey man, I hope you don't mind me calling like this. My wife got your number from your wife's phone during the drive home that night. Me, okay. Look, I just wanted you to know something. That thing that happened at the retreat, it's been all anyone can talk about since you left. The therapists actually addressed it directly in the Sunday morning session. They called it an example of honesty without compassion and said your wife weaponized vulnerability in the exercise. Me, seriously? Yeah. My wife said the entire room was visibly shocked by what happened. A couple of the women actually called your wife out afterward for being unnecessarily cruel. One of them said something like that wasn't honesty, that was character assassination in public. Apparently, your wife got extremely defensive and left the circle early before her turn was supposed to end. Me, I had absolutely no idea. I figured you should know the truth. You're not the villain here, man. Everyone who witnessed it saw exactly what happened. We're all basically on your side. I thanked him sincerely and hung up. I'm not going to lie. That phone call felt genuinely good. Not just the validation, but knowing that completely neutral observers interpreted the situation the same way I did. I wasn't being crazy. I wasn't overreacting. She said something truly terrible, and even a room full of strangers recognized it immediately. Friday, my wife tried a completely new approach. She left a handwritten letter outside the guest room door. 3 full pages in her careful handwriting. The main points. She loves me and always has throughout everything. She expressed herself extremely poorly at the retreat. She's been seeing an individual therapist who helped her realize she has unrealistic expectations about marriage. She desperately wants us to try couples therapy together. She's willing to sign a post-nuptial agreement promising she'll never use any potential future earnings disparity against me in divorce. She'll do literally anything to save this. Marriage. I read it twice, carefully. Then I placed it in a folder with my other divorce-related documents. Saturday morning, I gave her my response. Face to face in the kitchen. Me, I read your letter. Her, hopeful. And, what did you think? Me, I appreciate that you've been reflecting on things. I genuinely do. But my answer is still no. Her, why not? I'm offering you everything. Therapy, legal agreements, anything you could possibly want. Me, because the problem isn't logistics or legal paperwork. The problem is that you spent 7 years being disappointed in who I actually am. That fundamental feeling doesn't disappear with a post-nup. Her, people can change. I can absolutely change how I think about things. Me, maybe you can, but I can't change how I feel anymore. And I feel like I've been failing an exam I didn't even know I was taking. Every single day for 7 years. Her, that's not. I never intentionally made you feel that way. Me, the constant comments about expanding the business. The comparisons to your friends' more successful husbands. The disappointed sighs when I came home excited about a job, and you'd ask, is that all there is? You may not have consciously meant to make me feel inadequate, but you absolutely did. And now I finally understand why. You were waiting for me to level up into someone better. And I never did. She was crying again. So that's just it? You won't even try to work on this? Me? I tried for 7 years. I just didn't realize what I was trying for. Final update, 3 weeks later. This is probably my last update on this whole situation. Things have largely resolved, though not exactly how anyone predicted. The divorce is proceeding through the system. My wife's restraining order stunt actually backfired significantly. My attorney submitted the judge's dismissal ruling as evidence of her pattern of manipulation, which meaningfully strengthened my negotiating position on the business valuation dispute. Speaking of which, my attorney and her attorney finally hammered out the financial details. Here's the final outcome. The house, we're selling it. Neither of us wants to continue living there with all the memories. After paying off the remaining mortgage and covering all the transaction fees, we'll each walk away with approximately $82,000 from the equity. I'm okay with that outcome. My business, this was the real fight. Her attorney initially argued aggressively that the business had grown substantially during our marriage and she was legally entitled to a significant portion of its current value, which they estimated at approximately $280,000. My attorney countered effectively. I started the business 2 years before we married. I'm a sole person who actually works in it. She never contributed any capital, labor, or professional expertise to its operation. The growth was entirely due to my individual work, not our marriage. We went back and forth for nearly 2 weeks. Finally settled on her receiving $35,000 as a one-time payout for her marital interest in the business. It stings to write that check, but my attorney emphasized we could have been looking at $100,000 plus if we'd gone to trial and lost. I'll take the certainty of settlement over the risk of litigation. Other assets split essentially down the middle. Retirement accounts equalized, savings divided, vehicles stay with their titled owner. We each keep our own cars since they were paid off before the marriage began. All told, I'm walking away from a 7-year marriage approximately $50,000 poorer than I would have been if we'd never divorced. That's the financial cost of freedom, I suppose. But here's the part that actually matters emotionally. Last week, I ran into one of my wife's coworkers at a coffee shop near downtown. We've met several times over the years at her company events. She recognized me, hesitated visibly, then walked over to my table. I heard about the divorce. I'm genuinely sorry. Me? Thanks. I appreciate that. Look, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I'm honestly not surprised it ended. Your wife talks about you at work sometimes. The way she describes you to people, it's not kind. Stuck in a dead-end, blue-collar job, has no real ambition, that kind of thing. A few of us have actually called her out on it over the years, but she always deflects by saying she's just venting or you don't understand our dynamic. I genuinely didn't know what to say to that revelation, but it confirmed something I'd already suspected. The retreat wasn't an aberration or a one-time slip. It was simply who she is. She's apparently been telling everyone in her life, friends, family members, co-workers, that her husband is a disappointment. I was just the last person to finally hear it directly. The co-worker said one more thing before leaving. For what it's worth, I think being an electrician is absolutely a real career. My dad was an electrician his whole working life. He raised 4 kids comfortably on that salary and retired with dignity. Anyone who thinks that's somehow not enough doesn't deserve to be with you. I nearly cried sitting in that coffee shop. Nearly. My wife requested one final meeting before the divorce papers were signed. She asked to meet somewhere neutral, a small diner near our house that we used to go to for breakfast sometimes. I agreed to it, figuring at that point, what did I have left to lose? She looked exhausted when I arrived, noticeably thinner than before everything happened. I didn't feel satisfaction observing that, just genuine sadness for both of us. I need you to understand something before this is completely final. I didn't marry you for your potential. I married you because I genuinely loved you. Somewhere along the way, I got completely caught up in what I thought our life was supposed to look like. What I imagined other people's lives looked like from the outside. I compared us to couples who don't actually matter. And I said something truly horrible in that circle, and I will never forgive myself for it. Me, I appreciate you saying that. I really do. Her, is there any chance at all? Me, no. I'm genuinely sorry. But no. Her eyes filled with tears. I really am so sorry for everything. Me, I know you are. I believe that you're sorry. But being sorry doesn't undo 7 years of me feeling like I wasn't enough for you. Being sorry doesn't change the fact that you told a room full of complete strangers that I'm a disappointment. Some things you simply can't come back from. She nodded slowly, didn't argue or try to convince me otherwise. We sat together in silence for a few minutes, two people who used to know each other, completely now strangers. Then I paid for both our coffees and walked out. The divorce was officially finalized yesterday morning. 7 years of marriage, legally dissolved in approximately 45 minutes in front of a family court judge who had clearly done this exact thing 1,000 times before. I signed all the paperwork. She signed all the paperwork. We didn't make eye contact even once. Walking out of that courthouse into the afternoon sunlight, I felt lighter, not exactly happy, not triumphant or vindicated, just lighter somehow, like I'd been carrying something impossibly heavy for years without fully realizing the weight until I finally set it down. My buddy asked me last night how I was honestly doing. I told him I'm okay. Not great, not terrible, just okay. He asked if I had any regrets about leaving the retreat that day, walking out of that circle, calling the attorney from the parking lot. I thought about his question for a long while before answering. And honestly, no, I don't regret any of it. She told me her truth that day. I heard every word of it clearly. And instead of spending another 7 years desperately trying to become someone I'm fundamentally not, I chose to walk away and simply be the person I already am. That's not revenge. That's just basic self-respect. For anyone reading this who finds themselves in a similar situation, where you're constantly made to feel like you're somehow not enough, like you need to transform into someone else entirely to deserve being loved, you deserve better than that. You deserve someone who sees exactly who you are right now, today, this very moment, and genuinely thinks, yeah, that's exactly who I want to be with. I'll find that person eventually. Or maybe I won't. Either way, I'm completely done shrinking myself down to fit inside someone else's expectations. Thanks for following along, Reddit.